Hey guys, today we're doing part 3 of our PPL push-pull leg series. We are hitting leg day, so saddle up and let's go. All right, first exercise, we are gonna be starting with quads and we're going to be doing leg extensions. So what I wanna do here is 3 sets of about 10 to 12 reps, and then we're gonna finish with a rest pause set, which I'll explain in a minute. To do the leg extensions, I like to use a bench, as well as, depending on the height of your bench, you might need like a pad or something to raise the height up, and then a low anchor point and a 41-inch band. And then I'm also using a set of ankle straps, which you don't necessarily need. I'll show you a way to set it up with a mini band if you don't have ankle straps, but I prefer the ankle straps because they're easier and a lot faster to set up. So we're gonna take our 41-inch band, anchor it to our low anchor point. You could use a single band or you could use a pair of bands because you can hook it, one band to each leg, whatever works best for you, it doesn't really matter. Setting up your band, and then I start by scooting this bench back far enough so that I can hook my band up to the ankle straps. I just hook up one side of each band to the carabiners. Nice and easy. And then I'm going to scoot my bench out so that I get tension on the bottom of the rep. So I scoot far enough away, make sure everything is nice and centered. Now I have tension pulling my legs and my knees into that full flexion position. And then we're doing 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps, nice and controlled, focusing on that full extension and squeeze at the top. And then about a 2 to 3 second negative, back up, big squeeze, down nice and low. Now the reason why I like to start with leg extensions is because it's gonna pre-exhaust those quads, and it's also a very good quad isolation exercise. So we're gonna basically get blood moving, get the knees warmed up, and fill up those quads and get them pre-exhausted before we jump into the big, heavy compound movements for legs. So once you crank through your 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps, then we're going to jump into a rest pause set to finish off our leg extensions. So for the rest pause set, you're gonna use the same resistance that you use in your the set number 3. So you should typically pyramid up in that resistance from set 1 to 2 to 3, and then from 3 to the rest pause set, use the same resistance. And then to execute a rest pause set, it's pretty simple. It's just gonna be 3 little mini sets. So you're gonna use that same resistance, and then you're gonna crank through 1 little mini set to failure, stop, take a 15 deep breath break, do a second iteration to failure, and then stop and take a 15 deep breath break, and then do 1 final 3rd iteration to failure. So it's basically 3 little mini sets in one, and that will just get these quads fired up and ready to move on to the next exercise. All right, exercise number 2, we're gonna be doing some banded hack squats. So the way I love to set these up, and honestly, this is like one of my favorite banded squat exercises because it's compound and also it isolates the exercise so that we can focus on those quads and we can really go heavy with this exercise, and it is comfortable. So we're gonna grab a pair of 41-inch bands, cross them over our shoulders, and then step into each band. Start with the bottom one first, step into it, drop down, step into the other one, drop down, adjust yourself so it's nice and comfortable. And then we're gonna grab a foam roller and we're gonna step out away from the wall. I usually step out, I don't know, maybe like a foot, 1.5 feet, and you can adjust this as you go. And then we're gonna put that foam roller right at the bottom of our back. And this is gonna simulate kind of a hack squat position here. And then to do the exercise, we're doing 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps. And then we are basically pyramid up that resistance. So set 1 to 2 to 3, I want you going up in resistance on every set, finishing with the highest, heaviest resistance and more towards that 8 rep range. Like you should be struggling very hard to get 8 reps. That is how you know you're doing it right. And then we're gonna do a bonus set. You're gonna drop the resistance down and we're gonna do a set of 20 just for pure volume and full control. So when we're doing these exercises, when we're doing these reps, I want you focused on about shoulder width stance, toes kind of slightly out from each other, and then you're gonna drop down, all the way down, as much knee flexion as you can get to be comfortable, and then squeeze it back up, and then flex those quads at the top, big squeeze, and then we're dropping back down, and you can lean right into that foam roller. Exhale on the way up, big squeeze at the top, and it's all about control here because you're gonna be putting some stress onto those knees. So I want you to be controlled. Don't be bouncing up and down out of the bottom because that's gonna put extra stress on your knees that you don't want. So, and ultimately the bands are going to take a lot of stress off as opposed to free weights, but I still want these reps to be slow and controlled to get the maximum time under tension on the muscles. All right, next exercise, we are going to be doing a superset, which is basically 2 exercises back to back, and we're gonna do a set of the first exercise and then immediately follow it with a set of the second exercise and then take your break in between sets. What we're doing is the Bulgarian split squats with bands. So we're gonna be doing 3 sets of 12 reps each leg, and then we're gonna jump into some banded sissy squats, and we're going to basically do a set of those until failure right after the the Bulgarian split squat. So to set up the Bulgarians, I like to use a clenched foot plate just because it's easier to switch legs and it's also a little bit more stable. I just tuck the band kind of right under this center channel of the plate, and then the long end of the plate is parallel to my foot. And then for the Bulgarian split squat, you're gonna need to prop your back foot up. I use a bench with a pad on it. You can use anything that will accommodate like a couch or a chair or whatever, it doesn't matter. We're doing 3 sets of 12 reps per side. So we're gonna start out, get set up into this position here. And getting set up, you wanna make sure that when you're on the full downswing here, fully down, your front leg's at about a 90, and then your back knee is basically straight down and not touching the floor. And then on the way back up, basically it's just gonna be a one-legged split squat here. So we're gonna grab our band, bring it up. I like to hook it kind of on my shoulders, just like a front squat. And then it's all about control here. So we're gonna go down, nice and controlled. Little pause at the bottom, big squeeze at the top. And we're cranking out reps. So we're gonna do 12 per leg, switch sides, do the other leg. And it's all about comfort here. So you might have to move yourself around, might have to adjust a little bit, make sure it feels comfortable. You should feel a stretch in this quad when you're down, and then all of the loading and everything you should feel on your front leg. So then once we get our 12 per leg in, we're gonna jump over and do the sissy squat. To set that up, I like to use a clench anchor strap. I'm just anchoring to this weight tree, but ultimately, all you need is something that's like right around knee height or maybe a little bit above. And then grab a heavy 41-inch band. It's gotta be heavy enough to support your weight, but it might take a little bit of experimentation to get to the exact right weight. I find that the blue band is good for me. I'm about 230, 240 pounds. So you might need to bump up or down based on your body weight. Setting this up, we're gonna fold the band in half through the anchor strap and then slip one loop or one side of the band just below our knees. And then to do the exercise, we're gonna preload this band. So you wanna make sure you have something very sturdy that you're anchoring to, because you will be trusting it with all of your body weight. And then what I like to do here is preload. So I back up with my toes until my knees are bent. And then I have to have just enough room to be able to straighten my legs fully and engage those quads. That's how I know I'm set up in the right spot. And then to execute the rep, it's gonna be like you're sitting down into a chair. So I want this spine and basically from the torso up to be nice and vertical. And we're just gonna drop down low as we can get. It's all about knee flexion here. So you want the most knee flexion as possible, and then squeeze it back up. And then at the top of the rep, we're locking those knees out, squeezing those quads. That's where you really feel a lot of the stress and tension. And then we're going back down. And it's all about slow, controlled reps here. And a big squeeze at the top. So a couple seconds on the way down, little pause at the bottom, and then come back up and a big squeeze at the top. And you're doing this until failure. So you're probably only gonna get a handful of reps. I think typically when I do these, I shoot for around 7 to 8 reps. And that's basically like, I will just about fall over at the very end of the rep. So that is our superset for split squats and sissy squats. Next exercise, we're gonna be doing lying leg curls. So we're gonna start jumping into the hamstring isolated exercise. Your quads are probably destroyed after the first few exercises. So now we're gonna give you a little bit of a break, switch over to the back side of the leg. We're doing lying leg curls. To do this, we're doing 3 sets of 12 reps. And then we're gonna do some special stuff with the tempo on this to really isolate and get those hamstrings engaged. To set it up, grab a 41-inch band, a low anchor point, a bench. You don't necessarily need a bench. You can do these on the floor. I like them on a bench because I can get more extension all the way through, and I feel better tension at the bottom of the rep. And then I'm using a pair of ankle straps just to make it a little bit more comfortable. You don't necessarily need them. You can always wrap it around your foot or have a partner help you out. But I prefer the ankle straps because it's easy. And to set this up, we're just hooking in to our band here with our ankle straps. One band, one side of the band per leg, getting it adjusted. And then again, all about tension, right? So we want to get tension on this band and then adjust your bench to be far enough away from your anchor point so that I have tension pulling those legs straight out. And then I like to hang my knees just off the end of the bench, but my support is just above the knees so that I can fix those knees. And then when I'm doing this, I am thrusting my hips into the pad. So I'm kind of squeezing my glutes and engaging my glutes because hip extension is one joint motion that engages the hamstring, and then the other joint motion is knee flexion, so bending at the knees. So I'm thrusting my hips to the pad, I'm squeezing my knees together, and then I'm slowly contracting, flexing my knees, big squeeze, get all the way up to the top and hold it for about 1 to 2 seconds. And then on the negative, we're gonna really control this thing. So we're doing like a 4 to 5 second negative, all the way down, all the way straight. And then we change direction, come back up, big squeeze, and then let it down nice and slow. And basically, like I said, we're doing 3 sets of 12 reps following that strict tempo and making sure you're getting full range of motion, so letting it all the way down and then squeezing it all the way up to get that peak contraction. Don't use so much resistance that you can't get all the way up because you're gonna be losing out on some range of motion. Exercise number 6, we're gonna do another hamstring isolation exercise. Now we're gonna be doing some single leg standing curls, so that's gonna further isolate those hamstrings. And with the lying leg curls, we had that nice big full range of motion. Now we're gonna do some standing stuff so we can really even focus on squeezing that hamstring, getting it more engaged. The way I like to set these up, we're doing 2 sets of 10 reps per side. So it's only a couple sets, so I wanna make sure that you control the form and tempo on these and make sure you get the most out of these 2 sets. So setting this up, we have a low anchor point, single 41-inch band, and then also something to stand out, just a platform to get your fixed leg a little bit off the ground so that you have room to swing your foot and it's not dragging on the floor. I like to use the foot plate. This is a foot plate with riser kit on it. It's pretty, like whatever you can find to stand on, it should work just fine. Grab your 41-inch band, fold it in half, and this is gonna be relatively heavy. So I always start with the lightest band, and then comfort-wise, I love just hooking it right around the ball of my foot and I usually have shoes that'll catch it and kind of hold it in place. You may have to use an ankle strap or something, but I prefer to have it hooked around my foot because it forces me to slow the rep down and keep tension on this band, because if I let off of tension, that band's gonna fall on the floor. So it's like something to force me to use really good, strict form, and I just love doing these. So to start, I basically back up, get a little bit of tension on the band, bring my knee so that it's parallel with my other knee, and then I drive that knee into the other knee and fix my femur here. And basically from there, we're just gonna curl this up, big squeeze, and then let it down like a 3 to 4 count of a negative. Change directions, come back up, big squeeze at the top, making sure we're getting full contraction. Let it down 3 to 4 seconds. And that is how we execute the rep here. So first set, 10 reps per side, and then bump up that resistance if you can. And then do your second set, and you should notice some really good hamstring pump after this exercise. Moving on to the next exercise, we got exercise number 7. We're doing sumo deadlifts. So grab yourself a single 41-inch band. You want something moderately heavy because this will be a deadlift, but it's a little bit different than a conventional deadlift, so you won't be able to go as heavy. We're doing 3 sets here of 8 to 10 reps, following that same pyramid procedure. Start with a lighter band, do it closer to the 10 rep range, and then progress and go higher and heavier in tension on sets 2 and 3, and then drop those reps down. Set 3 should be going for all the marbles and just getting to that 8 rep range so that you're getting really good hypertrophy. 41-inch band. To set this up, it's pretty easy. So we're doing sumo deadlift. So that means we're gonna be really wide with our feet. And basically, I like to just stretch this band all the way out, get a little bit of tension on it, wrap it around the middle of my feet, and then my toes are kind of pointing outwards at, roughly 30 to 45 degrees. And to grab this, basically just reach your arms out in front of you, and that's kind of like what I like to use for the gripping point, something comfortable, normal arm width, according to your shoulders, and then I just overhand grip this thing. And now dropping down and engaging. We're not gonna bend straight over and pick it up like this because this could be all back. We're going to basically try to keep our torso and spine vertical in a neutral position, and we're gonna be dropping down, pivoting at the knees, ankles, and hips. And we're gonna drop down, all the way down, keeping our head up, looking straight ahead until we can grab this thing. Same grip here, about shoulder width apart, get it nice and comfortable. And then to pull it off the floor, you start with engaging your lats. So we're gonna roll those shoulder blades back, and then we're gonna thrust up with our hips and our quads, pushing up, and then thrusting those hips forward. Big glute squeeze at the top, and then let it down nice and slow, keeping that head up, spine nice and neutral, all the way down. Big squeeze at the top, letting it down nice and slow, get nice and deep here. You're gonna notice there's gonna be a big stretching component and mobility component to this exercise, but it's for good reason. And remember, we're pulling with the lats first, and then standing up straight, vertical, and a big squeeze. This is gonna target more glutes, more hamstrings, and it's also gonna give you a lot more hip mobility, and it's gonna help you work that lower back without putting too much stress on it. All right, we are to the last and final exercise, number 8. We're going to switch over and do some calf work. We're gonna be doing donkey calf raises, which is honestly like one of my favorite banded calf exercises. It's easy to set up, and you can also get tons of tension on your calves, which is what calves like for growth. So we're gonna grab a single 41-inch band. I'm using a foot plate with a riser kit because we're gonna be standing kind of on the edge of this foot plate, and we need a little bit of depth so that we can get some ankle flexion. Hooking up the band, I always put it in the far channel here across the short edge, the short width of the board. Get that thing set up, and then I'll put a counterweight on the other side. You can kind of use whatever you have just to keep the front from coming up while you're doing this exercise. Getting into it, You're just gonna drop down into a squat, hook it right around the low back, just on the base, and then you can stand right up and it'll hook that band in. And then we're gonna stay bent over, roughly a 90 degree, just enough to keep that band hooked on your backside. And then to do this exercise, you're just dropping down into full or as much ankle flexion as you can get. Don't like sit down into the floor too much, just kind of tap those heels, get them down there as much as you can. And then we're putting tension on those calves. Big squeeze, get up as high as you can get, all the way ankle extended. Squeeze at the top, let it down nice and slow. And we're powering through. We are doing 3 sets of 15 reps here, and keep them under control. I don't want you bouncing out of the reps, bouncing up and down. That's no good. You want to keep it nice, slow, and controlled. Big squeeze at the top, control the negative, and power through these reps. And while you're doing these sets, like I said, calves like heavy resistance. So pyramid that weight up as you go through and end with a high weight that you can complete the 15 reps without compromising your form. And you will notice those calves should be just tore up and pumped up at the end of this. That is a wrap on our leg workout. If you made it this far, your legs probably feel like a bowl of Jello at this point. That is what we want. So good job on that. Give me a high five in the comments. If you like this workout, be sure to smash that like button. Also, if you want to see the rest of our push-pull leg series or other videos like this, check out the on-screen video links. And of course, if you need any of the resistance bands or accessories shown today, please head over to clenchfitness.com and we will hook you up. And thank you so much for watching.